Guys, among the great many things that people were tweeting me about last night after that game, and really this has been fairly consistent in the last couple of months. I'm all too familiar, as you guys are, in your respective mentions from the first half of last year when I can't even count the number of hashtag fire email tweets that I got. Well, I mean, it's Joe Mazzulla's time to go, apparently, according to the vocal minority that is social media. There are so many tweets. I will just read one of them from Christine, which is, sadly, it's looking like Boston has the wrong coach. It's hard to deny that his rotations are beyond questionable. His adjustments are non-existent. I think he gets exposed in the playoffs. On top of that, he's so arrogant with the media, most especially people like Jared Weiss, like he is a proven coach. It's hard to like him.
Celtics Beat is brought to you by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook.
I added the Jared Weiss part.
Okay.
Oh, what are we thinking, Jared? In terms of, yeah, it's like, wow, she's really been watching.
Jared, I forgot to tweet that from my burner account last night.
She's really been watching every presser. This is impressive. What do you think? Like, I don't need to tell you guys, and I don't need to tell the people listening that there are people out there that are really skeptical of Joe Mazzulla based on a litany of factors over the course of this year. We have, I think, generally, Evan, over the course of this year and with our various guests, really pumped up Joe. We've been in favor of Joe, liked the hiring, liked him being, getting the full head coach title and extension, not just the interim tag and all that. Like we are generally Joe Mazzulla supporters here on this program, but we acknowledge, even Bill Belichick is not without his flaws. So what is your level of confidence in Joe Mazzulla as he ramps up for his first playoff run as a head coach?
Say moderately confident. I mean,
that's not inspiring.
No, well, right now you shouldn't be inspired. It's too early to have a referendum on Joe. We'll see how he does in the playoffs. I can just say, as far as the media thing, like, yeah, he can be a pain in the ass at the podium, and then you talk to him afterwards, and he's great. And it's like he's doing a shtick at the podium. I don't know why he does it, why he leans into it so strongly, but like it's him doing an act clearly. Or he's just pissed off after a game. But like talking to him, he's great to talk to when he's not in front of the mic. When he's in front of the mic, sometimes it's great and sometimes it's terrible. So but I definitely really like Joe a lot. So I've enjoyed working with him so far this year. And so as far as his readiness, I think that most people don't know what adjustments actually are. So
yes.
Like most people will be like, there were no adjustments when they like change up their coverage, they change up their help, they change up their assignments, like they started running different actions, they switched from doing like spread pick and roll to horns actions, so set up elbow touches, like stuff like that. Like there's tons of stuff that changes that people don't notice change. They only notice who's playing what minutes. That's all that people really notice. And hey, maybe the person that tweeted is going to respond like, no, they actually ran snap out at the 4:37 mark, and that was the same thing they did in the first quarter. So yeah, maybe. But like, there's a lot more. Like actual adjustments are way smaller. Actual adjustments are like the guy doing the weak side help is going to lift from the block to the second hash mark. That you're going to do up to touch coverage on a pick instead of deep drop, where the big is still dropping below the screen, but instead of going down to the free throw line, he's going to be within an arm's reach of the screen. So like those are small adjustments that most people probably don't notice that do happen on a much more frequent basis. They're mostly going to notice like who started the second half, like when is Grant Williams checking in, that kind of thing. I think Joe is doing what most coaches do, and Joe, I think the things that I've frankly have asked Joe about a lot has been like, one, when he's calling plays in the second half on the fly, can they execute out of that? And that's been spotty. I don't know if that's on him. I mean, their plays aren't that complicated. There's not a ton of them. It's really, I guess it's a matter of chain of communication on the floor, and do guys know where they're going? So there's that, and then there's just like, I think the ability to recognize when your team is getting beat in a certain area. How does he respond to that? And I mean, in the Utah game, I think he did a nice job of, they were getting crushed on the glass, so he went triple big. and he tried to match Utah's size and adjust to that. That was like a pretty big adjustment. He didn't play Derek White in the fourth quarter, and so people latched on to, you didn't play Derek White in the fourth quarter, but like he needed to go with the bigs. It was a gamble whether to go with, I guess, Muscala, since Grant Williams was so hot, you had to play him at the 4, but like go with Muscala or go with Derek White. I understand, the consternation over that because White's a much better player, but would you rather have Muscala's length? Like, does Derek White's ability to crash the glass really matter against a team that's playing that big? It probably makes more sense to have Muscala's length. So the Utah game is a good example of him adjusting, but did they lose too much offensive flow? Maybe. At the end of the day, it's like they top-sided Grant Williams on the inbound, so they didn't put anybody on the inbounder, so it set Grant up to fail if he didn't commit to the play. And because JT took that crappy 3, and they only had 5 seconds instead of they had 5 seconds to run a play there at the very end. Grant Williams didn't really have the time to be patient to set up the DHO after Utah was topsiding him. So he made the read, didn't work out. He at least tried to draw a foul, didn't work out at all. And maybe, I think most of the time Al Horford has the ball in that situation. Horford's bigger than he could finish. Grant was in a tough situation. They didn't have quite enough time for him to do what he probably wanted to do. But like that game would have felt, I think, a lot different if they were able to close that one out. So I think Joe is doing a decent job making adjustments. I think Joe is dealing with, frankly, a lot of guys that are just uninspired right now. And it's because last year they sucked for a long time, then they got their shit together and they were cruising. But I don't think I remember them being super strong in like the very last weeks of the season. I think they could maybe like slowed it down a little bit there. But this is a team that dominated so early that they're not in the midst of their rise anymore. They got so high, the only place they had to go was down. And so they're really, right now, I think they're looking at the season as they're just tired of the regular season. They want to get to the playoffs. And
is this a group, though, that is seasoned enough? I know the run it went on and most of that group is still here, but is this a team that is seasoned enough, veteran enough, even in its experience, never mind age, that it can just flip that switch come the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, this team isn't as young as people think anymore. Jalen and Jason are in their mid-20s now. Al Horford is in his mid-50s now. Marcus Smart is deep into his prime at this point. Brogdon is deep into his prime. Derek White's in his prime. Like this is actually a team in its prime now. And Rob Williams is no longer a future piece. Rob Williams has not demonstrated enough health for you to bank on his prime being something the Celtics can expect to be a fringe all-star caliber player. That's out the window now. It's like it'd be great if it happened, but you just can't bet on it anymore. He hasn't been that great this year. He's been solid this year, but he hasn't been as good as he was last year, and he is not healthy again. So, the Celtics are not a team on the rise. The Celtics are a team in their window, and they have the capability to open up another window down the road when Brown and Tatum are hitting like the 30s and they're going through their next contract. They definitely could do that, but like this is their best chance. I mean, last year was their best. Whenever you make the finals, that's your best chance. There is no best chance after that. And right now, this is their best chance. And it was a hell of a bet by the organization to give Joe the extension instead of letting him try to win before, or letting him get the playoff tests before he won. That was a big bet by them. But Mazzulla has the basketball acumen to do it. It's just that being a head coach, it's less about your X and O structure. It's more about your decision-making, your ability to establish power, and your game management. And we saw that was a huge strength for Udoka last year. And as much as Udoka changed up the system in ways that were really beneficial for the team, he was good because he was able to kind of have that epiphany moment for this team. And they really cruised off of that epiphany. But they're past the epiphany now. You have a ton of energy and excitement when you first solve a problem. But then the hard part from there is like recognizing that once you no longer have that fresh excitement of living in a new world, can you actually live in it? And they're having trouble doing that.
Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet.